Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm a young male college student living abroad, and something happened last night that really shook me. A guy waited in the lobby, and when I nodded at him as a polite gesture as I walked past him in the lobby, he followed me into the elevator but didn't press any floor button himself. He stayed in the elevator with me the whole ride, and while in there, he repeatedly invited me to his room in a way that feels like he was plotting something, saying things like, "You are so," and then he kept pressing after I said no. He also asked if I lived alone and if I lived on that floor, which made me really uncomfortable. I told him that I live with my friends, just to avoid giving away too much, and before I left the elevator, I said something with exposed emotion, disgust, uneasiness, and maybe even some fear, because I was creeped out and I regretted that I didn't just stare at him and stood my ground. I don't feel safe walking alone around my place now, and I am planning to report it to the building security since there's CCTV. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? How should I handle it if he tries to approach me again? Should I throw hands with a potential creep? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit. I reported and checked the CCTV footage, and the security team replied not to worry too much as the condo has a lot of CCTV and high security. Well, I guess there's nothing more that I could do except move on, I guess. Thank you for all your concern, and you guys stay safe too. So I was telling a coworker the story, and she suggested that I share it here. Sorry in advance if I ramble. I tend to remember random details every time that I tell it. Back when I was about 17, around 2009, I worked as a courtesy clerk at a grocery store, bagging groceries and bringing in carts. My mom and sister also worked there, so the place felt like family. Most of the guys that I worked with were protective of me, which honestly was a blessing because I got hit on by older men all the time. My boss would even follow me home some nights just to make sure that no creeps were trailing me. But one incident, though, has stuck with me. It was an insanely hot day. I'd just finished wrangling a mountain of carts and ducked into the little pizzeria corner of the store to cool down. Out of nowhere, this man in his 20s or 30s came up and handed me his number. He didn't say much, if anything, just walked off. I was too overheated to react. But the next day, a silver minivan pulled up to me outside. I noticed baby shoes hanging from the rearview mirror. The man tried talking to me, and I remember cutting him off and saying, "I'm 17 and I have a boyfriend." Usually, that scared men away. This one didn't. That night, near closing time, my cashier whispered that someone was watching us. I turned, and I saw the same guy from the minivan standing around the corner just staring. I told my night manager, who immediately opened the office door while counting tills to keep an eye on things. The guy eventually left the store, but just waited outside. My manager ended up following me home again that night. A few days later, my aunt randomly texted me, which was unusual because we hardly talked. She sent me to a link to a Craigslis missed connections post and asked if it was about me. And it was. The post said something like this:
Saw you working at the grocery store. You were cute. You wore a bow in your hair, suspenders hanging from your shorts, a bunch of wristbands, and had bright colored hair. Your name tag said Garrett. I'm 40, and I would like to meet up.
The Garrett part really freaked me out because Garrett wasn't me. My coworkers and I used to switch name tags sometimes just to mess with customers and see their reactions. So not only was this guy watching me closely enough to describe my entire outfit, but he also memorized the fake name that I just happened to be wearing that day. I ran to my day manager and I showed him the post, and he immediately replied to it with, "Too young for you," from a parent. After that, things got weirder. I'd see the same silver van around, but sometimes I wasn't sure if it was even the same guy. Once, I rushed inside after spotting it, and suddenly the man was already following me down an aisle. There was no way he could have parked that fast and then gotten inside. When I screamed, he bolted before anyone else saw him. The police got involved and gave me an escort home every night for a week. Eventually, I got transferred to a different store in a different town, and I never saw the van or that man again. Being hit on by creepy older men unfortunately never stopped, but that Craigslis post still gives me chills to this day. I wish I could find it again. It was so unsettling reading how he described me. So, to the man who wrote that Craigslis post about a 17-year-old girl, let's not meet. In 2008, I was 16 and living in a small town where you'd see the same faces over and over. One of them was this man in his mid-30s, scruffy beard, worn-out jacket, someone I'd always assume was just a local drifter. Then, I started noticing him more. He would be outside the shop when I went in after school, leaning against the fence across from the school gates, or walking a little way behind me on my route home. Always just far enough to make me second-guess myself, but always there. One Sunday afternoon, I was walking into town to meet a mate when I saw him at the bus stop. As I passed, he fell into step beside me. "All right, Ryan," he said. I froze for a second. I have never told him my name. He asked if I still lived up by the church, and that was where my street was, but I had never mentioned it to him. Then came more questions. "You usually get back from school around 3:30, right? You still playing football on Tuesdays? Does your mom still work at the post office?" The way he said it, it wasn't casual conversation. It was like he was checking his facts. I told him that I had to go and I sped up. He just smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'll catch you another time." A few nights later, after a football practice, it was dark and I was walking the quiet route home, and from behind me, I heard that same voice. "Not many people out tonight. It's a good night for a walk." He was standing under a streetlight, hands in his pockets, just grinning. And then he said, "Your bedroom's the one at the back of the house, isn't it?" I didn't answer. I just walked as fast as I could without running. And after that, I started changing routes, times, and everything. I never saw him again after a couple of weeks, but every time that I walk home alone in the dark, I half expect to hear his voice behind me. A few years later, I was flicking through the local paper and I froze. There was his face staring back at me. The article said that he had been arrested for assaulting an elderly woman in her own home. They had a mugshot, and it was exactly how I remembered him. Scruffy beard, dead eyes, and that same unsettling grin. Hello everyone, I'm 32 and female, but this story happened to me when I was around 14 years old, or maybe younger, I can't remember exactly. I have been on this subreddit for a while now, and I am fascinated and a bit sad with how many creepy experiences people go through on a daily basis. So I thought that I would also like to share my own experience. I am the only child in my family, and my parents, despite being supportive and good people, were also very busy. They would take on overtime and extra work just to earn extra cash, and not that I was upset about it. I understood that we needed the money, but this also meant that I was left alone at home multiple times a week. I was raised to be responsible, so my parents never worried about me. And our sweet neighbor, an old lady who knew about my situation, she would check on me from time to time. She even told me that if I wanted to, I can hang out with her in her house and we would have snacks and stuff. I would do that sometimes, but I would just stay at home and do my homework, then watch some movies most of the time. My mom would leave food in the fridge for me to heat up, or when she doesn't feel like cooking, she leaves me money enough for pizza and the tip. One day, on a day my mom didn't want to cook, she left me a note and money on the kitchen counter saying that I can order pizza that night. I was excited because I was actually craving for some. I called the pizza place, ordered, and just sat in our living room couch watching TV while I waited for it. After maybe 20 to 30 minutes or so, I can't remember, but I heard our doorbell ring. I looked through the peephole and I saw that it was the pizza guy. So I opened it. I took the pizza from his hands, handed him the money, told him how much his tip was so he can deduct that too. He was trying to get the change for me, painfully slowly, and while doing that, he started asking me questions. He asked things like my age, my name, if I were home alone, and I lied and I gave him a random name and age, and I told him that my mom was in the shower. Something about him was giving me the creeps. He looked clean-shaven, wearing his pizza place uniform, and he looked to be around his early 30s. But just his general demeanor was creeping me out. And then he finally got my change, handed it to me while making sure that our hands touched, and he had this weird expression on his face as he said, "You're so beautiful." I just said thanks and I quickly closed the door and locked it. I was young, but as I mentioned earlier, I get left home alone a lot, so my parents made sure to teach me about stranger danger and all of that. I wasn't a dumb child at all. That was raising a lot of red flags for me. But since the ordeal was over, I just shrugged it off, ate my pizza while watching my movie, and I went on with my day. When my parents arrived, I have already forgotten the whole thing and I didn't tell them. The next day, it was the same thing, just me at the house, but this time I had some food to reheat, so I didn't have to order anything. An hour after I got home, I hear our doorbell ring. I was confused. I was not expecting any guest, and our neighbor, the sweet old lady, usually just called to let me know she has snacks and stuff that she wants me to eat. I had no idea who it was, so I slowly walked to the door and peeped, and to my shock, it was the pizza guy from yesterday. He was holding a box, but I did not order anything at all. My parents weren't also the type to order for me. They would let me do that myself. The man probably heard me walk there because he started saying, "Pizza delivery." I answered and I said, "We didn't order any pizza. I think you got the wrong house." He then answered, "Really? The address on the order was for this house." And again, I tried explaining that we didn't order anything. The man paused for a bit, and then he said, "Well, don't worry about it. I'll just give this pizza to you for free. Just open the door to get it." I told him that I wasn't interested, that I'm full, and just to eat it by himself. He then said that he can do that, but then we would have to share it since he can't finish it by himself, and also as an apology for bothering me. It was obvious that this grown man wants me to open the door and let him in. I told him no, and he actually started twisting the door handle. I screamed, and I ran into my room and I locked myself in there. I hid under the sheets and I don't know when it happened, but I fell asleep. I woke up later when I heard a car pulling up the driveway, signaling that my parents were home from work. I went downstairs and my mom asked me why there was an empty pizza box on the doorstep. I broke down and I cried and I told them about everything that happened, even the one from the day before. My mom and dad were furious. My dad called the pizza place and complained to the manager, in which the manager apologized and said that he will take care of it. My dad then called his workplace and said that he would take the next day off. He didn't explain why, but he said he had a family emergency. But I was just excited to have my dad home, really. The next day went on as normal. I went to school, got home, and I locked the door. Now, my family only had one car. So since my mom went to work and my dad stayed at home, there was no car in the driveway because my mom took it with her. So it seemed that there was no adult in the house again. The reason why I'm explaining this is because after an hour from when I got home, I heard a doorbell ring again. My dad and I were in the kitchen making sandwiches when this happened. My stomach just drops. I was sure of who this person was. My dad automatically had a frown on his face, so I think we were thinking of the same thing. He whispered to me to check the peephole first and see if it's the same man that has been bothering me. I did. I checked, and I nodded yes to him. This time, the guy wasn't wearing his normal pizza place shirt. He was wearing a different shirt. My dad swiftly opened the door, which probably startled the guy, and in one swift motion, he grabbed the guy by his collar. I would like to add that my dad is a big muscular man, and not the one you see in gyms, but he is a blue-collar kind of guy. He's big and he's strong. So he holds this guy by his collar and just yells at him, asking him questions on why he is bothering his underage daughter. The guy is clearly flustered and stuttering while making up fake excuses. I can't really remember what excuses he said. My dad's yelling and just the whole commotion makes some of the neighbors start coming out of their houses to see what's going on, even my sweet old neighbor. My dad then threatens the man and then he throws him on the ground. The man scrambles and runs to a car parked nearby and then he speeds off. My dad said that he regrets not holding on to him and calling the cops, but he says that he was swallowed by his anger and that he couldn't think straight. And the good thing is that our sweet old neighbor was smart enough to get the man's license plate, and my dad called the police and reported it. I don't think they ever caught the guy, but the good thing is that I never saw him again. So yeah, this story might not be the creepiest on this subreddit, but it was the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. I can only hope that what happened to the man made him stop what he was doing, because I would not want for anyone else to experience what I did. So, creepy stalker pizza guy, let's not meet again. So to start off, I would like to apologize for some grammatical issues. English is not my first language, and for context, I'm a male. It happened when I was in 5th grade, and because I live in Kyrgyzstan, our school system is not the same as in America. I had first shift. That means that I had school from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. I was the kid that was always heading back to my house after school, but I was always walking with my 2 best friends because we lived near each other. After we got to the point where we would be heading off to different directions, we said goodbye to each other and then we walked in our own directions. It was autumn, so I was dressed in a school uniform with a jacket and a hat. It was quite chilly. We had 7 entrances to the building. Mine was the 7th one. I was living in a good neighborhood in the center of town, so when I started approaching the door to the 7th entrance, I noticed a man that was standing near it. To clarify, on the porch. I had a feeling when I looked at him telling me not to enter the building with him. And then he looked at me with his empty eyes, and I was scared a bit. So he turned his head at my direction, looked at me, and then entered the building. My mom always told me not to enter the building with other people, so I stayed on the porch, trying to hear if he took the elevator so that I could enter the building alone. As I heard the elevator go up, I entered the building, and thank God, no one was there. I touched the elevator button, waiting. I entered the elevator and I pressed on the 8th floor. As I was going up, I heard the fast footsteps on the staircase because the elevator was near it, so you could hear anyone going up the stairs. It was sounding like he was running, and now I was panicking because I didn't know what to do. I knew he was going to approach me as the doors opened. I started banging on the door, pressing our doorbell. But unfortunately, my older brother was always slow at opening it. So as I was waiting, I looked at the staircase and I saw that man running full speed looking at me. He was so tall, he was like skipping 3 stairs, and I was scared as hell. I started banging. Meanwhile, he was looking at me as he was running. My brother finally opened the first door. But the story doesn't end here. I flew inside, locked the doors, and I told my brother about the situation. Also to mention, I know every neighbor in our 7th building, so I never saw that man. He was also looking not good, a bit unkempt. My brother, who was 16 at that time, 185 centimeters and also a wrestler, opened the door and then approached the man, questioning him about who he is. The man started getting aggressive, and also he grabbed his phone and started acting like he was talking with someone. The man started being rude, aggressive, and in fact my brother was calm asking questions. My brother said to him that he is scaring people who are living here. The man didn't care and he just started cursing. My brother just closed the doors fast and told me to be careful. I'm still scared of entering that building after this story. I don't eat ice cream or popsicles, nor gelato or froyo, or any other kind of frozen dessert of the sort. It's not because I don't like the taste or a dietary restriction, but I feel uncomfortable having them because of something that happened to me when I was younger that turned me away from it. When I, female, was 8, just like any other kid my age, loved ice cream, and I always got excited when I heard the ice cream truck come. So, When I heard it that day, I rushed to my mom's side and I put on my best puppy dog eyes to ask her for ice cream. She sighed, washed her hands because she was cooking, and then took out a $5 bill from her purse and then handed it to me. I said thank you, grabbed my prize, and then ran outside, seeing a few other kids already lined up to the now stopped truck, getting their own ice cream. I stared at the menu on the side of the truck, wondering what I could get for $5. I decided on getting a chocolate cone with brownie bits on top. When my turn came, I noticed it wasn't the old man that usually gives us ice cream. It was a younger guy. He had a big smile on his face as I walked up to the truck. "Hi there," he said, in a very cheery, inviting way. "And what's your name?" "I'm Cindy." Not my real name, but I'm just gonna use it for this story. "What a pretty name for such a pretty girl. Would you like some ice cream, Cindy?" "Yes, please," I told him. "Wow, you're so polite," the man said. "Very ladylike of you, Cindy. What kind of ice cream would you like?" "Chocolate, please, with some brownie bits on top," I tell him. "That's a great choice. That's my favorite too," the man says while he makes my ice cream. "Is that your house there, Cindy?" he said, nodding over to my house. I nodded. Was that a dumb decision? Yes. But when I was younger, it wasn't as widespread to teach your kids about stranger danger. The man then finished making my scoop and handed it to me. My first reaction was to stare at the 2 scoops in front of me. I panicked a bit because I didn't order a second scoop and I don't have the money for that. Excuse me, I didn't." "It's okay." The man cut me off and then he said, "I gave you an extra one because I think you're very pretty, Cindy. It's gonna be our little secret, okay?" He said with a wink, and I just smiled and nodded, giving him the $5, and I take my ice cream, just happy because I got an extra scoop. I waved goodbye to the ice cream man and I walked back inside. Thinking back, the man didn't drive off until I was inside. He just waited there. I don't know what he was doing since my back was turned to him as I went inside, but I can only assume that he was watching me. So, I went inside with my prize, thoroughly enjoying it, when my mother came in the room and asked, "2 scoops? Did you save up yourself?" she said as she ruffled my hair. "Very responsible little girl." I shook my head no. I said, The new ice cream man gave me a free scoop. He said that I was pretty." Her eyebrows scrunched and her lips pursed a bit. I realized now that she was concerned about the situation, seeing it weird how a fully grown man was calling an 8-year-old that he never met before pretty. "Tell you what, Cindy, next time you want ice cream, you tell me and I'll get it for you, okay?" my mom said. The request seemed odd, but if I got my ice cream, I didn't really care. "But what about the flavors?" I asked her, wanting to get good ice cream. There were always bad ones in the ice cream truck, and I did end up getting a SpongeBob popsicle. They tasted like Pepto-Bismol. My mom then reassured me, "I've been raising you for 8 years. I know you're a chocolate girl." I shrugged and agreed, more focused on my ice cream than that conversation. Mom wanted to get my ice cream instead? Makes life easier for me. So the next time that I heard the ice cream truck, I told my mother, and she went to go buy my ice cream, and all was well in the world for a time. and it kept like that for about a week. When the gifts started arriving, the mailbox for our house was by the road, and every once in a while, there would be a gift inside, a cute bow or some stickers. Once, there were little dolls stuffed into the mailbox. I was excited to see these things because who wouldn't? But my mother seemed to grow more and more upset with each gift that came, and she would throw them away rather than let me have them. It took a while, but my mother put two and two together, realizing that the gifts only came on days when the ice cream truck came by our street. So the next time the truck came by, she went out to talk to the man. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could tell that they were yelling. And after that, my mother didn't get ice cream from that truck anymore, just buying it at the store instead. Whenever she heard the music from the truck, she would simply stand by the window and watch. And when she saw the man get out of his van to our mailbox, she and my dad came out of the house and confronted him. My dad was really aggressive that day, pushing and shoving the ice cream man back into his truck. And after that, the ice cream truck didn't come to our neighborhood anymore. But the gift still came, so my mother decided to spend the day looking at the mailbox. She told me when I was older what she saw. The ice cream man, out of uniform, just driving up to our mailbox in a regular old car and putting the gift in. At that point, she had had it. She called the police about it and together, along with my father, decided to file a restraining order against the guy. It was a lot harder to find him then than they initially thought, because ice cream trucks weren't part of some big company or organization. They were individually owned freelance things that people can buy and do. All you needed was a vendor's license. But eventually, the police did find the man and gave him the order to stay away. It might be a bit of an overreaction, but after that, I never had any ice cream. The part about anyone can do it and didn't even need a background check to do a job that primarily revolves around being near children just feels wrong to me. So if you are ever getting ice cream from a van, be careful. You never know who is on the other side. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again, to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.